This next author is Debra Georgantis-Miller, who has a master's in education. She is an author of the Mayflower Compact Signers. She's also part of the Society of Mayflower Descendants in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And she is with us this morning to talk about the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower coming here to the United States with the Pilgrims that we hear so much about. And, of course, we celebrate them coming up in November of this year when we have Thanksgiving. Good morning, Deborah. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Gary, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Well, you're also an educator, you're a speaker, you're an author, you're a historian of the Mayflower. You've traveled around the country extensively. You've gone abroad doing research for your book, which includes 26 biographical mini booklets about the signers of the Mayflower Compact. Tell us a little bit about your book and what kind of got you off onto this journey.
Well, it all started actually with my mom inspiring me. She's been doing genealogical research for quite some time of her New England roots. She's originally from Rhode Island, and she just started doing research, and it got me involved with it. And then I was offered a position on the national board, the General Society National Board, as their junior chair in 2008. And that's where this whole idea of mine, and I don't know if it's a teacher's mind, that I need to get all these facts into one book about each one of the signers of the Mayflower Compact. And also because I use it a lot, or I've used it a lot, when I would, with my kiddos in high school, do a comparison between, our Constitution and the Mayflower Compact. Just kind of doing a comparison with it and what both of them, are trying to say. So that's my story on how I got started with doing this. And then they were all little individual booklets, and then I decided to put them all together in this limited edition.
Now, it's a Mayflower Compact Signers, the 400th anniversary edition. 1620, they came here to 2020 today. I mean, amazing story. You talk about the compact. And I'm an old history teacher for 25 years myself before I get into this.
Yes.
And one of the things that's always been fascinating to me was this compact that they put together. And it reminds me of where we were supposed to be as a government here. The people were supposed to be the government. They put together this agreement among themselves on how they were going to live together there in that colony in Massachusetts. Talk a little bit about that and the importance of the Mayflower Compact.
Sure. Actually, when they finally sighted land in November, they realized that because they didn't make it to where they wanted to be, and being under the thumb, if you will, of the king, that they knew they had to do something that would help them as far as, one government, and that they could live under, and that they could not be, supervised or under the king's rules, even though many of them became indentured servants for over 7 years, Gary, which a lot of people don't realize because of the money that some of them had to borrow, if you will, from the merchant adventurers. And but yes, it's something they knew they had to do, and that's why. I mean, it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point about what was needed from them in order for them to move forward and be successful.
I know we have all kinds of people. I remember when I was a kid, everybody always had relatives that came over on the Mayflower. It's just one of those kind of things. You actually, I think, do have some relatives that came over on the Mayflower, don't you?
I do. I have 12 and counting out of the 102 that came over. And yes, it's interesting when you try to let your nieces and nephews know about it. I can remember one of them when she went in to tell her teacher that, I'm related to Abraham Lincoln. And she just, kind of like shrugged her off like, sure, honey.
Right. Right.
about that, or Johnny Appleseed, and this is all through, the dissension and all the generations. And then, of course, Mom would go in and talk to the whole group. Me, it was always, whenever I would start, I can bring the Mayflower into any subject that anybody wants to talk about. And my kids used to go, "Oh, there she goes, talking about Mayflower again."
Right.
But yeah.
What one is maybe a story that you came across in doing your research for this history, something that you came across that maybe we don't know about. We all think we know an awful lot about the Pilgrims and Thanksgiving and all that, but it's something you came across that maybe we wouldn't be generally aware of.
Wow, you should have prepared me for that one. No, I guess it's just in general how, and they may have known about it, but one of my descendants, John Howland, falling over the ship. He had been down where they would, because it was a sweet ship, which means that it carried wine.
Right.
And they were so cramped down there, and they were told by Christopher Jones, the captain of the ship, you need to stay down there, because he had his crew, and they weren't very nice to them. They mocked them for reading their books and for being so proper, if you will. And he came up during one of the storms, and when the boat rocked, he was it threw him over, and he just by chance grabbed one of the ropes on there, and that's what saved him, or he wouldn't be a descendant of mine with that. So that's one story.
Interesting.
Yeah. Another interesting is Mr. Button was one of the ones that was on the ship as one of Jones's mates that he had working there, and he was one of the worst ones with, and this is all in Bradford's journal. If people would read Bradford's journal,
right.
He journals everything, that he passed away, and he put in there that God was punishing him for the way he treated and how rude that he was to the separatists and the merchant adventurers.
When you think about this, and it's so important what you're doing, because I often lament that we're not transmitting our culture on very well anymore.
No.
I don't think we're transmitting our history very well. So books like the Mayflower Compact Signers and other books that you've written, I think are so important to get that word on to people and to have them actually read them. About a minute to go. Final thoughts about what you're doing and why this book is so important and where people can pick it up.
Sure. They can actually pick it up on sale 1620, and that's not S-A-L-E, it's S-A-I-L, sale. The most important thing to me is that I found in the past years is how they've meshed Halloween together with harvest and with Thanksgiving. It just seems like they've forgotten about Thanksgiving and its real purpose. It's just so much. We go from Halloween, it seems like, into Christmas. And not to negate Christmas, but I think that to me has been one of the things that I was hoping during this 400th anniversary that people would think more about. We're home
right.
As a family more than we were before COVID, I believe, and I'm just hoping that there's more discussion about, like you said, the history. You can get a timeline. They actually left Delfshaven in the Netherlands in July 22nd, and they're actually in the middle of the ocean right now.
Debra Georgantis-Miller, who is, by the way, and I didn't even mention this before, Deborah, and I should have, a resident of York, Pennsylvania. Longtime high school teacher, has published the Mayflower Compact Signers 1620 to 2020 400th Anniversary Limited Edition. What a great gift that would make this year, wouldn't it? For any Mayflower descendant, student, or history buff, and also a great library reference as well. And Deborah's back with us. Deborah, I think we had a question here. Mark, do we have a question for Deborah this morning? And let's bring our caller in here for Deborah. Good morning. Who do we have on the line, please?
Good morning. This is Barbara Garrett.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
My question for Deborah, which I think it's wonderful that this book is out. Our children need to know more about our history. Unfortunately, they're not teaching it in high school anymore. But I wanted to know, did the Pilgrims really land at Plymouth Rock?
And do we have Deborah there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you now, Deborah. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's been one of those myths and misconceptions. It goes way back to, there was a gentleman apparently, like about 100 years ago, that had told his family that he actually had the rock that the Pilgrims stepped out on. And from there, it was, the story goes, it was broken in half, and half of it was put one place, half was put another place. And then it became immortalized where you see it now. And I was joking with Gary that the canopy that houses it, and they've done a lot of renovation to it, probably costs more than some homes we live in. But, it's a good, it's something that brings them to Plymouth. Hopefully it's not the only thing, but no, there's never been anything proven about that it has or hasn't. That's a great question. It's a very
thank you very much for your question this morning. We appreciate it. What from your standpoint, Deborah, what is the most important thing to know about this group of people that came there? I mean, the sojourn that they had took them through Howland at one point in time. They weren't really wanted there. Weren't really comfortable there, didn't want their kids growing up speaking Dutch. We remember those old stories. Came
right
here, and you really look at the idea of this uniquely, what started out as kind of a British supplanting really becomes the beginning maybe of the American story and the independence and the self-government and all those kind of things that maybe weren't necessarily the object, but ended up being the lesson that was taught, right?
Exactly. When you have half of them that pass away, I mean, I know one of the things that my mom says a lot, she goes, her New England Jeans, that, she's going to be 90 here soon, and she goes, it's my Pilgrim, it's my Mayflower jeans that, keep me going and keep me young, my endurance, as we survived the first winter, and, she talks about that a lot. But I would have to say a lot of people think that it's just had to do with religious freedom, and although that was a significant part of it, a lot of it, like you said, did have to do with them. They knew they needed to leave where they were, and because they had gone over to Leiden. And there's actually a beautiful museum there that's being curated by Dr. Jeremy Bangs. It's wonderful. If anybody goes there, it has so many artifacts from the Mayflower
right.
in it. But I would say that not only, like you said, they were fearful of their children marrying outside of their circle, the financial, difficulties. You had the truce, the 12-year truce with Spain. And they knew that this was time that they just needed to secure their financial backing, find the investors that they needed, which they did from London, who promised them, these who they promised these, profits that they would give them for 7 years. And they knew they needed to get over there. They used the Geneva Bible. That was the Bible that they used. They didn't use the King James Version.
Right. So, an amazing story about people who were so willing to get away that they're willing to put their lives on the line, and many of them lost their lives in starting a colony here in the country. Where can people find the Mayflower Compact Signers? And by the way, this is a compilation of, I believe, 26 mini booklets that you've written, 1620 to 2020. This is the 400th anniversary limited edition. Where can they find this, Deborah?
They can find it on sale, 1620.org. That is our Society of Mayflower Descendants website. I am selling it through there because some of the proceeds are going towards, we actually go into our school system here. We try to once a year. Obviously, it had to be canceled this year, which is unfortunate.
Sure.
We pay for the Plymouth Plantation to actually come and go into the schools all around PA. So, it has a good cause. Like you said, I had one grandparent call me saying that she's going to buy them for her grandchildren and give that
great
as a
stuff.
gift. Yeah, yeah.
So 1620.org is where you can find this, and it's called the Mayflower Compact Signers, 1620 to 2020, 400th Anniversary Limited Edition. Deborah, thanks so much. Very important this morning. We appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Gary.